Okay, Senefest Network. Ooh, yeah! What is up, everybody, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ted. This is one half of the Wrestling Exchange, the most electric podcast in all of sports entertainment. I am joined with my co-host,
Papo in the house. Welcome back, everybody. Let's get ready for an awesome show.
Yeah, man, we got some stuff to talk about. Did you, so we have little quick things to go over here. We got the NXT results for NXT TakeOver. They basically had their this would be their third live showing type pay-per-view. A lot of cool matches that were featured on it. So I figured since we had seen the contenders in the main event on this past week's Raw, I could just go ahead and just go over the results here.
Go ahead, Ted. Take that ball and run with it.
Now they have Paige defeating Becky Lynch. I don't know if it was a dark match or if I just didn't catch it because I don't think I watched the pre-show. But moving on. The Lucha Dragons. This is a team a lot of people would really be into. It's the Hunico, who now plays the role of Sin Cara, and this young wrestler by the name of Kalisto. People may know him as by his work on the Independents by the name Samurai del Sol. Really, really, really good. If you could make another luchador similar to Rey Mysterio 1996, 1997, he would be that guy. He's not. I don't think anyone's ever going to be on Mysterio's level, but he's really good. So that team actually unseated the champions, the Ascension, Connor and Victor. I think they were on last week's main event or Superstars, but they're an interesting tag team. They became the new NXT Tag Team Champions. We had Baron Corbin defeating CJ Parker. Keep an eye out for Baron Corbin. CJ Parker is doing a hateable gimmick, a hateable hippie gimmick. It's a lot of fun. Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy defeating. Enzo Amore with Colin Cassidy defeating Sylvester Lefort and Marcus Louis. It's a hair versus hair match. Enzo Amore wins, but it's actually funny. You should go check it out because instead of being able to cut the guy's hair off, he bails, and they have this hair lotion that just takes hair off, and then the guy's hair was all chopped up and whatnot. Very cool stuff. We had Bull Dempsey defeating Mojo Rawley, which is what that is. And then we have Charlotte, Ric Flair's daughter, retaining in a match against Bayley. She's kind of like a female. Papo, you remember Eugene, right?
Yes.
She's like a female Eugene, but not quite special needs. She's just a really nice person.
Okay.
And she has a delicious booty.
Yeah.
And then for the main event, we had Adrian Neville. He was a champion in a fatal four-way title match against his other opponents, which were Sami Zayn, Tyler Breeze, and Tyson Kidd. Really good. Really, really solid match. Probably the best one on the card, and that's actually hard to say because there were a number of other really good ones. That being said, Papo, how excited are you to talk about this week's Raw?
I'm ready for this episode. I mean, there was a few matches in there which I thought had lackluster, but once we get in there, there's a few matches that I do want to talk about in depth, which let's get rolling. Let's get rolling, Ted.
Well, we got a show opening up with one of my favorite possible segments. It's Paul Heyman, ladies and gentlemen. His name is Paul Heyman. He basically starts, if you remember, Papo, last week, they basically had it set up to where if John Cena had made a threat to Paul Heyman that if Brock Lesnar didn't show up by the halfway point of the show, that he would fight him. So basically, the show starts, Heyman's in the ring, he's talking, and it doesn't even really last that long. Cena comes out, basically demands to see Brock Lesnar. Heyman says that Brock's plane is delayed, he's running late, so... and basically also insinuating that Cena's a coward because he knew he would be late. Cena proceeds to grab Paul Heyman by a headlock and drag him to the back and basically put him in his locker room and put the big Khali in front of the door, making sure no one came or went. What do you think about the overall promo that went on here between Paul and Cena, and the whole setup for what would occur later on in the evening?
Well, honestly, I thought it was kind of dragging it a bit, but it did. I mean, honestly, it was worth the result later on, and we'll talk about in the show. I mean, it built up perfectly. I like the way that WWE did this because, again, he had Heyman pinned by Khali in his locker room, and Cena was ready to fight him. Because, what was it, airplane delay from Brock Lesnar?
Yeah. Yeah, it was the idea that Brock Lesnar is such a private guy and that he hates people. He has his own plane to take him to and from, and it's been, unceremoniously delayed.
Yes, but I mean, I didn't like it at first, but then I did appreciate it as we go on to halftime on Raw.
Interesting question, because we talk about halftime, because they did make a big deal of it. What would it be? How would you feel if at the halfway portion of the show, much like, I don't know how much they did this back in the WWE, but I know that this was a big thing in WCW during the Nitro days, where I think it would have the first hour would be like Zbyszko and Shivani on commentary, and then it would switch over to, I think, Bobby Heenan and maybe Mongo or Bischoff. Do you think the shows on a weekly basis, specifically ones that are over an hour, would benefit from having a secondary commentary team, so that way it still seems fresh even though you're 2 hours in, or at least an hour in, excuse me?
It would seem fresh, but then you have somebody coming in during halftime and they totally miss what was going on. And then when they do recaps, they hear different voices. It's going to totally confuse them all completely.
That's true. Well, I can't argue with that. So basically, that was pretty much it for the Paul Heyman segment, at least for the moment. We move into the first match of the night, which, if I'm not mistaken, this is actually the second Raw in a row where Y2J was in the opener. I think last week was the cage match against Bray, and this week is a match versus Corporate Kane. First off, when he came out, did you appreciate the better jacket? Because as of late, he's had jackets that have the LEDs going straight down, which are cool and all, but not nearly as the jackets with all the different blinking lights on it. Was it refreshing to see this jacket as opposed to kind of like the maybe shitty tier jackets we've been seeing in the past couple of weeks?
It was refreshing. I mean, but let me tell you, that jacket with the Christmas lights all over it is awesome. I don't care what anybody says. That jacket is awesome.
Oh, it's the coolest thing ever, right? Just turn on, and there's something about lights going off in a building, right? We see that with the Undertaker's entrance. You know, it's very dark. Anytime the lights would go down and come back on, it's a very visual effect, and people kind of maybe tend to underappreciate it. Like, for example, Bray Wyatt comes out, and you see everybody whips out their cell phones, and it's Bray Wyatt's, I think he calls them his fireflies, and, his cult family followers. And it's just really cool. And Y2J's been doing that dark entrance for a long time. And
years.
Yeah, and he stands in the dark, and he's got a Christmas tree jacket, and it's cool. And I don't think there's anything more to say other than it's really cool. And I wish I had one.
I got nothing to say about that. That jacket is awesome.
It is too. A lot of people shit on it online. It's not fair. The thing's great. So this was a kind of an interesting match, right? I had very low expectations for this match, not because I'm a huge fan of Jericho, but I didn't imagine. Kane's not a bad wrestler, but Kane works a particular style, and not all styles work very well together. So I was kind of apprehensive because I didn't think that those two would mesh very well. I'm sure they have in the past. But it was actually surprisingly good for an opening match. Basically, during the match, Kane removes the turnbuckle pad and attempts to Irish whip into it. Jericho does the baseball slide out under the bottom rope. Very cool. Flying crossbody. And then Kane tried to slingshot Y2J into the turnbuckle, the exposed turnbuckle. And then he reversed it, and then Kane went for chokeslam. He reversed it, DDT, and then Jericho wins with a roll-up. How surprised were you at the overall match itself, being whatever your expectations were?
Well, this being the opening match, I will admit, I had low expectations, but when they got it together, it was a clinic. It was an awesome match. I mean, that match right there was enough for me to stay seated. I mean, they went back and forth, the turnbuckle thing, the baseball slide, the roll-up. I mean, they went at it in classic attitude style. I mean, back in the day when they had during the Attitude Era, Kane was on point with all of his moves. But I mean, when they have different move sets, they actually meshed for this opening match of Raw.
Yeah, they did, and it's nice. I'm sure you probably share my opinion. Is that it's nice to see them not. What's the word I'm looking for? They could have just had a regular match, right? Nothing special. But it was cool to see them exposing the turnbuckle and then the very clever use of it. And then I think with Kane, I don't know why, but you can do other things like in ways that he comes up short. You can add elements of drama, and I think that that's what they've been doing in these really good Kane matches in the past month or so, is that to add another level of drama, whether it's the possibility of cheating, whether it's the possibility of a weapon, and it just kind of works, because otherwise, I don't know. I'm not the biggest Kane fan right now. If you had asked me 10 years ago if I was a Kane fan, I would have absolutely been, but now it's like it's like if The Undertaker stayed a biker. Could you imagine what it would be like today if The Undertaker was still biker mode?
He would still have the streak.
Well, yeah. He would still have the streak. And, you know what, man, that's too soon. Too soon to be bringing that up. Shit still hurts.
My bad, big dog. Just keep rolling.
Basically, we cut back to Paul Heyman. He's in the dressing room. I think it's Cena's dressing room, and he's basically trying to get Brock on the phone, and then he has they show us that he's having bad reception, and then they cut away from that into basically a little bit of a hype video for Mark Henry and Rusev. We jump from that into a Roman Reigns interview backstage with, Renee Young, and then from there, I think there was a commercial break, and we got Jack Swagger versus my boy, Bo Dallas. I know what I thought of this match. I'm really curious to see what you thought.
Well, we all know this match was coming. But let me tell you, excellent match with Swagger and Bo Dallas. Awesome match.
Wait a minute. Did I hear you correctly? Are you
yes,
saying
you heard me correctly.
That you're a Bo-lever?
I am not a Bo-lever, but I will admit this match was awesome. This match was awesome. Swagger, I mean, he all around is just a horse of a man. He is huge and agile in the ring. We've said it many times before. He does got excellent in-ring skills. Too bad he sucks on the mic. But Bo Dallas, I mean, he's got that heel thing working for him big time. And then watching this feud come up to this point, this match was pay-per-view level. This match was pay-per-view level.
Yeah, for this week's Raw, it's actually interesting because I found it hard to pick a match of the night because you mentioned pay-per-view level. There's a couple of these matches that are really, really good, almost tied for each other. Um, I'm with you on the Jack Swagger talking bit, right? Like you should definitely keep Zeb Coulter. I mean, not everybody needs to be a talker. Some people can just have someone else do their talking for them. Um, did you like how when Bo Dallas got the advantage on him that he did the We the People, but instead of it was We Believe, and he actually started to get heat for it?
Yeah, that was awesome. The match was again just awesome. So I'll let you keep going with that.
It really was. It really was awesome. Um, yeah, they were pandering to the crowd, but they were doing like the right type of pandering, very much playing into it. And by the time Swagger gets his comeback, you want to see it. And of course, I'm a big mark for the ankle lock. I just wish. I'm sure you'll agree with me, or I would hope that you would agree with me, that Kurt Angle has the superior anchor lock. Anchor lock, my goodness. Ankle lock.
Ankle lock!
But how would you feel if Swagger would grapevine on the leg, much like Kurt Angle would do? Basically, you have him in it. He's not tapping. He starts pulling towards the ropes. You pull him back, and then you got him in the middle of the ring, and you just basically sit down and kind of body scissor that shit. Do you think that I feel that would add more drama? I'm just curious as to what you think. Or do you think he could improve upon the Patriot Lock or Ankle Lock or whatever he's calling it?
Oh yeah, I mean, if he grapevines them, that'll be awesome. And every time I see that ankle lock, I wait for it. It's like Angle spoiled us because when you know that grapevine sit into the ankle lock, that was it. They're tapping. There's no getting out of it because there's no way they can move themselves and the body to the ropes. And it's like signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yeah, and then when he does it, it's kind of a mind fuck to your opponent, right? Because, okay, yeah, I'll put it on him. Oh, you're going to go for the ropes? Oh, no, you're not going for the ropes. Pull him back in the middle, sit down. That's a done deal. But, yeah, I very much thought this match was very, very cool. A lot of crowd participation. It was very nice to see that they're actually seeming to have good chemistry together, and I could actually buy them feuding for a little while as opposed to just like a one-off. So I could actually see them doing this a couple of times at maybe 2 pay-per-views, maybe best of 3, whatever. And then he can return to his feud with Rusev. But, yeah, in the end of the day, Bo tops out to the Patriot Lock.
I will have to admit, it was on an excellent reversal that he tapped out.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that thing was just awesome. Hey, so speaking about women's wrestling, even though we haven't mentioned it at all yet, and this is my poor attempt at a segue, we had Paige and Nikki Bella versus AJ Lee and Brie Bella. Now, before we get into the results of the match, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you think they should have had more time?
I mean, it was short and sweet, but what grabbed my attention the most was AJ mimicking Paige as he skipped around the ring, which had me laughing because it actually pissed Paige off.
Oh, you mean when she was like doing a mirror image of her when she was going around the outside of the ring?
Oh yes.
Yeah, very cool. These girls can work. I don't know. I'm liking more and more Nikki Bella. It's not that I don't like Brie. I just don't think they've figured out what her strengths are. Whereas you can kind of get an easy feel for Brie, you can get an easy feel for AJ and for Paige, and I really do like that they're continuing the idea. At least my interpretation that I'm going to get in crazy, Paige is thinking I'm going to get in the crazy girl's head and fuck with her, and then only for AJ to be like, this is what happens when you get into my world. Like, I'll fall in love with you, and I'm going to, be creepy stalker-ish. Very, very cool stuff.
Okay. Here's a question: Which one has the Tigger Bitties?
The Tigger Bitties, huh?
Which one?
I'd have to say that's Nikki Bella.
Okay, then I'm with you then.
she's the more she's the more bodied of the two. She's the curvy one.
Nice.
Oh, them curves.
Nice.
Very nice. So, anything that you wanted to talk about before we move on into our next portion?
Let's keep the ball rolling, Ted.
Keeping it rolling. We get a Bray Wyatt video promo. Kind of long-winded. I'm not really going to get into it. But basically, immediately after that, we have a segment where Paul Heyman, you have Khali standing outside the door, and Paul Heyman essentially tries to get out, and Khali basically throws him back into the dressing room. This is very entertaining, no?
Yes, it was. When Khali grabbed his phone and smashed on the ground, and then pushed him back in the room, and then he picks up the broken phone and goes, "Hello? Hello?"
and it's kind of cool, right? Because Heyman's trying to play up like, hey, I'm just trying to make a phone call. I'm here. But yeah, no, it was very entertaining. That's the type of thing you can use Khali for. Just don't put him in the ring if it's on television. Just the ring. Hello?
Yeah, you froze on me for a second.
Oh, I was going to say, I was saying, what would you think about having Great Khali on color commentary?
No.
It would be hilarious for a little bit, right?
Are you ready for it, Ted? You ready for it?
All right, then. All right. I'll keep my bad ideas to myself for now. Then we have a real interesting match that was basically Bray Wyatt and, of course, obviously the other members of the Wyatt family, Luke Harper, Aaron Rowan, the Big Shoe, and ends up doing a double choke slam to Rowan and Harper. Two questions. What did you think? And could you get into a feud between these two guys?
I could definitely see a feud between Bray Wyatt and the Big Show. Let me tell you, what this match was, I found excellent. I mean, nobody has taken it to Big Show like that before. I mean, I've never seen... Bray Wyatt was on point with all his moves. The Big Show sold everything. And let me tell you, it's... Bray Wyatt got the big man down a couple of times, where other wrestlers, it took 3 or 4 times to knock him down. But this was an awesome match, and it played to Wyatt's strengths. And I would love to see these two feud in the future. I mean, because Rowan and Harper are not even a factor. I mean, he doubled them both, and that was it. But with Bray Wyatt in the ring against the Big Show, I mean, he took it to him, and I was really impressed. This had to be my favorite match of the night. I'm going on record saying that this was my favorite match of the night.
You know what? I think if memory serves me correctly, yes, this is the match I have tied for match of the night. Yeah, man, this was awesome. And to your point, when you mentioned that it took him a few times to get him down, it was really well placed, right? I think it was about like 2 or 3 attempts at like really big, heavy crossbody, like throw his whole being in his show, and then show just kind of stagger. But yeah, I think they played it right here in that slow build to finally you get the giant off his feet and whatever. And my only problem is Bray Wyatt's status, so to speak, not his level on the card or on the show, but the fact that he can have a really good feud with Big Show, but it's hard for Bray Wyatt to be the heel. And on how they're presenting him as if he's a heel. But the problem is he does cool shit, right? He cuts cool promos. He talks about I'm the eater of worlds and I'm fucking away Bray Wyatt, and he's got a colt and a beard, and who doesn't like that? He does that freaky spider walk thing. And then we talked about the units before. He comes out in the dark with like really mellow, cool music. He's doing the backwoods gimmick, tells people run, and everybody has the lights off, and a million things to like about Bray Wyatt. Do you think it's a problem that WWE, as far as at least in their creative aspect, are positioning Bray Wyatt wrong, since we all like him that much anyway, and makes less sense as a heel because he has less people on the face side, where if he were a face, he'd have different feuds. I'm curious what you would think about that.
Well, Bray Wyatt, as of right now, he's got that anti-hero thing kicking, which, with today's day and age, everybody loves.
We're going to get into an argument here one of these days. We're going to get into an argument, me and you.
They love him because
this anti-hero thing.
The anti-hero is like what people want. They don't want to see good and bad. They want to see bad be badass.
But that's the baby face. That's the new baby face. It's like this post. No, he's not an anti-hero. The anti-hero is John Cena. I'm gonna spend a minute. We're gonna hash this out just for a quick couple of seconds because I think it's interesting and I like the spontaneity. I'm gonna make my case that John Cena is the anti-hero. You're a wrestling fan. There are some guys you want to see. There are some guys you don't want to see. But more importantly, when you go to a show, you're going to cheer one guy and boo another guy, right?
Right.
And the best feuds and storylines revolve around, let's not even say good versus evil. Let's just say two polarizing opposite sides. Or opposite forces. Right? Both guys aren't going to get a comeback. They're not going to have that wrestling comeback. Someone's got to be booed, right? Someone's got to do the heel shit. Pick a body, try to injure him, do this, do that, whatever. I just think that, like, I don't think anybody's an anti-hero with the exception of Cena, because Cena goes out there and we don't know what to make of him. He's able to sway us one way or the other, but we don't know. You have a large portion of the crowd that, and then positions where some people are really into John and some people really aren't. So in my book, and this is basically my bottom line, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, a babyface ultimately, since the days of Austin, because Austin was a babyface, because he gave the people what they wanted to see. This kind of new I guess you would say like post-cartoony superhero WWE into that attitude area, where he was doing things that weren't traditionally babyface things, but he was giving the people what they wanted to see. And he was the guy that the people wanted to live vicariously through. The old adage, men want to be him, women want to be with him, and whatnot. So I don't think there's very many anti-heroes. I think John Cena is the anti-hero. Because you have people that legitimately hate him for whatever reason, and you have people that legitimately love him. I don't know. I'm just going off on a rant. What are we talking about? We were talking about Bray Wyatt.
Anti-hero.
No, he's a face. He's a baby face. Well, yeah, I'm not even going to get into it, right? Because I'm sure people will comment angrily about what I said. So we'll just keep it moving. Let's see. The Usos and Sheamus versus Cesaro and the Dust Brothers. The Usos came in with their game faces on. I don't know if you noticed that, but in the past forever watching the Usos, it always seems like one's in it and one's kind of like somewhere else. Like, not insulting him, but like it just doesn't seem like he's in it to win it. He just kind of seems like there. So like when they're doing the hawk, for instance, the one guy's like 2 seconds off, and his hand gestures are much less what the actual dance is. So, but did you notice? I mean, is it just me, or did you feel like when they came out, these guys meant business?
Definitely felt it. I mean, as soon as they came out, they were on point with everything. Because I'm so crazy, and they were on point with everything. I mean, there was a few spots that were kind of lackluster in this 6-man tag, and Ted, you got to tell me how pissed off you were when Cesaro didn't do the big swing.
Oh man, I kind of liked it. Maybe I'm just a masochistic wrestling fan. So before we get to that, though, and you know what? No, I'll speak my piece on that. Right? I like the idea because they're trying to present to us that Cesaro's a bad guy, right? But we don't want Cesaro to be the bad guy. We very much like him. We think the big swing is dope. We think he does all this cool shit, and I don't know why they're trying to keep him heel right now, or at the very least, there's very few things he does to actually gain heat, to gain anger from the audience. And the one thing that he's really good that I like, and I both like and hate that he does it, because when he goes for the big swing and decides not to do it, he's doing what a dickhead, what a bad guy in pro wrestling would do. He'd tease you with something cool, and then like, nah, you're not gonna get it, and that just makes you want to hate him, and it just makes you want the other guy to kick his ass. So it's awesome in that fact, because you see, like, okay, like doing heel shit still works. You can still get heat, right? There is still such a thing. But the other side of me says, I love the big swing, and I want to see him do it to everybody. And I think he should do it anywhere and everywhere he goes. Every time he signs an autograph, do the big swing. I'm a huge fan of it. But, yeah, I'm kind of torn on that. But did this match, on how really good it was, and I think a lot of that had to do with the Usos like really being on point this evening, does it make you miss the Shield?
In a way, it does, but again, I mean, the Shield would have probably missed less spots than Star and Gold with Cesaro, but I always love a 6-man tag. That's hands down. But it would have been. I am missing Shield, honestly. I will fully admit, because they're just 3 of the nastiest guys you'll ever meet. So, what about you, Ted? Did that make you want to miss the Shield?
Oh yeah, because you hit the nail right on the head. We're spoiled, right? Because for the better part of 2 years, the Shield had like a 6-man tag every week, whether it was on Raw, whether it was on SmackDown. You got a 6-man tag almost every week. Unless they were defending the tag team titles. But even then, I think there was a couple of 6-man tags where they were tag champions, specifically Rollins and Reigns. Yeah, because those guys, like, we've seen 6-man tags before, but that became like their shtick, their gimmick, their thing that we knew them for. And that's why it was so interesting to invest yourself in, because here are these 3 guys that maybe on their own might be whatever, but as a unit, they're just unstoppable, And and the fact that they ran through everybody. So when they got in the 6-man tags, it was like, because they've seemingly in the past, well, and probably in the past year, they've been in a lot of 6-man tags. So, like, you can see that they're getting the flow of it. But, yeah, man, I kind of miss the Shield just from watching it. But aside from that, it was a pretty dope match, and I really, really dug that the Usos took it real seriously because it looked like they were just kicking ass in there.
Yeah, they went in so crazy.
I refuse to say that. I refuse. Yeah, well, they also have the Usos are going. Well, you know what? We'll get into their match on Night of Champions in a minute. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about this particular six-man tag?
None at this time. Let's keep the ball rolling.
Keeping it rolling. We have a backstage interview segment with Renee Young and Randy Orton about the attack last week on the season premiere. I still don't understand what the hell they're talking about. It's a show that's on every week. Can't possibly have a season premiere. It's 52 weeks every year. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Anyway, we get the halftime show. John Cena basically goes out and gets Brock Lesnar. Before we get into the ring, what was going through your head watching it?
Well, I had a feeling that they weren't going to fight to begin with. But at the beginning of the show, Cena had him pinned in the corner. We talked about that earlier. And put him in his locker room. Kali was watching. Blah, blah, blah. They get to the ring, and that whole bit between Heyman and Cena, it was sort of, I mean, the drama was there, big time. It was such like Star Wars-ish, if you will. Come to the dark side. Come to the dark side. And I was really getting into it. But then Cena had to mess that up. Please.
Oh, definitely. So yeah, man, this was a blast. Anytime John, see, here's the thing, right? We've talked about this before. I think Cena's actually criminally underappreciated. One of the things that he does really well, love him or hate him, is the fact that that man can cut a promo. I don't give a damn what anybody says. John Cena can cut a fiery promo just as good as anybody out there right now. Maybe not of all time, but arguably I don't think there's anybody out there right now that can cut a better, like I'm fired up, better fired up, I'm ready to kick this guy's ass, real intense emotion. And you can tell that because a lot of times when he launches into those promos, it'll start with people booing him, but like by the end, especially if he's been positioned in the right feud against someone that we can all universally not like or what have you, he's able to sway a portion of the audience. Add Paul Heyman into the mix, who's probably one of the top, I don't know if Paul Heyman would make my Mount Rushmore of managers, but he would definitely be in my top 10. Easy. Maybe just out. Maybe about 5. Maybe he'd maybe make the top 5. But he's incredible. So when you have them together, it's awesome. And of course, Paul Heyman basically goes on to say that he's pleading for his life, and he's like, "Don't hurt me. I'm just an advocate. I'm just an advocate." He basically Cena goes on to remind Heyman of the consequences of the deal that they struck. I said I was going to give you such and such a time. You were going to produce Brock Lesnar, or I'm going to whoop your ass. He's not here, so I'm going to whoop your ass. And then in a weird twist of circumstances, basically, Paul Heyman says that he didn't expect John Cena to do anything, and he basically tells John Cena he should feel bad. And that, again, reinforcing the idea that the only way that Cena can beat Lesnar, or even stands a chance of surviving, getting out of that match alive with Brock Lesnar, is that he has to be willing to do some dirty shit, right? You got to give in. You got to tap into that hate. If you can tap into that fire from the positive people, you can definitely tap into that hate. And then, you know, he says, besides, if you attack me anyway, even if Brock doesn't show up, which is a possibility, his plane could be legitimately delayed, then hustle, loyalty, respect, your morals, your ethics, they mean nothing. You're just a thug. You're just a bully. And then, you know, that kind of hits Cena in a way, and then he realizes, like, damn it, like, I can't beat this man's ass. It would just be wrong and senseless. And the little kids that buy my T-shirts. And then Heyman even says that he deserves to get an ass beating, but Cena won't give it to him. And then, of course, he basically says Cena doesn't have any testicles, to which Cena shoves him out of the ring, and then out comes the beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar. How pumped were you to see Lesnar show up?
I gotta admit, I was happy to see him there because then that whole bit would have been to crap. But when he came out, I loved the way he was playing the mind games with Cena. Just looking at him, walking around the ring, circling the prey like a shark. That was badass. And then turns around and smiles at him. And he's like, come on. And he's sitting there just smiling at him. Tell me that wasn't hilarious.
Oh, no, it was... I think this will be like the 6th time I've said this on the show today. You hit the nail right on the head with that one. He was circling like it was Brock Lesnar. I did like that he was actually wearing the title. It's not a pet peeve of mine, but when I was younger, back in some of my most formative years, I had adoration for the guys that wore the belt, right? I was like, these guys are champions. Like, oh man, this guy was champion, and this guy, and this guy. But when I was younger, and I think you might remember this, everybody wore the damn belt. When they came out, they'd be wearing the belt. Nowadays, nobody wears the belt on their shoulder like a lazy ass, you know, or does the thing where they just kind of hold it. It's nonsense. Wear the damn belt. I'm glad Brock is bringing prestige, and he's wearing the damn belt. It's called a belt for a reason.
Touche.
Shazam. So, basically, yeah, man, he just circles him like he's a shark, and then he goes to tease getting in the ring, and then he backs up, and we've seen quite a few people do this over the last couple of years, and it's becoming increasingly common. But I think, in my opinion, Brock Lesnar is the best guy at teasing possibly fighting someone, right? Because you could take it that he's a legit fighter. Is he looking for a weakness? Is he trying to figure out the other guy's, you know, steps and movements where he can sweep in and take advantage? But it's just super intense. And like those feuds where the two guys don't touch and they're kept apart, and then there's just kind of this energy that revolves around it, at least from the live perspective. Were you surprised that Lesnar got in the ring?
I was surprised when he got in the ring, and just to take a step back, that's called the square off. Where they don't fight, but they're in each other's faces and looking to stare each other down, etc., etc. But when he jumped onto that ring, I was like, oh shit, it's about to go down. And then he gets into the ring, and they just start throwing blows. And guess what? A belly-to-back suplex. Surprise!
Bam! Like right out the gate.
At the back of his neck.
Yeah, man, that shit was super intense. Like, he got in there, they locked up. They weren't locked up for more than about 10 seconds. Just boom, German suplex. And you're like, oh, damn! You know, because John Cena received about 15 of those at SummerSlam. So, and then I liked it. I liked it. And we've seen Paul Heyman say so many times that my client doesn't fight for free, whether it's Brock, whether it's Punk, whoever. So every time, because Brock is so good and so successful, him and Heyman of doing the tease that even when Brock's about to get in the ring, I'm like, nah, this asshole's not going to get in. He's going to jump down and smile. And all the people that were there that paid their money because they knew excuse me. But yeah, no, man, I thought it was great. They got a little rolling around, a little tangled up, nice and tense. And yeah, we'll talk about that later because then we can go into our opinions on the feud and where we see it going. Ultimately, it gets broken up by WWE officials. The next match. The next match is these lovely, lovely young ladies of the Funkadactyls. I noticed, I don't know if you noticed it, but the crowd basically shit all over this match. There were boring chants, JBL got chants, and JBL should never get chants. Never, ever, ever. Right? Is it just me, or is it they could have prevented that if they didn't delay Naomi's comeback for so long? Like, it felt to the point when the babyface makes a comeback, heel cuts him off, right? Let's say the guy's leg is hurt or whatever. Goes back to working the leg. Babyface gets up, starts coming back, cut him off again because the crowd's like, damn it, I want to see this guy kick his ass. There's like a point of diminishing returns because at some point, you can only do that so long before the people are like, well, fuck her, she sucks, and this is dumb, and I'm going to chant boring and JBL. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the match wasn't really that bad. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. But, I mean, I don't know, the crowd just didn't seem to be into it. I mean, I will admit that WWE waited too long to put a nail on this coffin. There's only so much Walking Dead that you can fucking watch.
It was almost like it was like 3 or 4 minutes too longer than it should be, right?
Yes, exactly. Definitely on point with that. But, I mean, when it came down to it, I mean, they just waited too long to put an end to this feud.
Say that again?
So, they waited too long to put it. They waited too long to put an end to this feud.
If they've even ended the feud, because God only knows they could still be going on. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I actually like this match, and I like it in a way that when you watch Naomi work, you know she can get in there, she can throw a bunch of holds. You know she can go. Cameron is kind of different, right? Because you're not sure if she can go, but if that's a weakness, she makes up for it in her over-the-top personality and her viciousness. Like, yeah, maybe she does it.
Don't forget about the booty.
And the booty! But even if, she doesn't have all those holds, when she's got him down, she's going to start stomping a mud hole in a motherfucker, because... Yeah, I don't know Scorpion Deathlock or whatever the hell. So you can make up for that and just a very aggressive and just stomping the shit out of Naomi. So I thought the match was entertaining. It just sucks because the atmosphere on TV is never the same as it is in the live audience. So you could have the worst match of all time, but if the live audience is super into it, it doesn't matter because on TV it translates totally different because you're seeing it through the filter of, wow, this must be really good. Maybe I'm just missing something. I accept this is really good, And then when you have a solid actual wrestling match as far as terms of what they were trying to accomplish and the story they were trying to tell, and you just have a crowd that, I don't know, maybe felt they got screwed out of the John Cena-Lesnar match. Maybe they thought they were actually going to get a match. I don't know. But yeah, they just shit all over it, and it was a damn shame. And it's a shame for the people watching on TV, and it's a shame for the performers because it makes the performers look bad, and that's not any of their doing.
For real.
Speaking of things that's not any of their doing, we have to talk about the worst thing they did this evening on Raw. we had Miz and Damien Mizdow, a.k.a. Hollywood Miz's stunt double, versus Dolph Ziggler and R-Truth wearing Dolph Ziggler's gimmick. Excuse me, R Ziggler. Wearing Ziggler's gear. And then they basically put it over in the commentary as if, oh yeah, we totally can't tell Dolph Ziggler and R-Truth apart because, you know, R-Truth's his stunt double, where it's like, oh my god, it was pretty terrible, wasn't it?
Honestly, it was comedic at a point, but it started to drag. But, I mean, that's just Dolph making fun of Miz. So I can see him playing into that, but the situation being is that the commentary, they dragged that on too much. I mean, a few spots would have been fine, but they overkill, complete overkill on. We can't tell them apart.
It's stupid, so, right?
It was stupid after a while.
I mean, and I was accepting of it for a minute, but like. It just, I don't know. It didn't work for me. It really didn't. Like, here's my point, right? It works for Sandow because for months Sandow has been doing whatever random things to find his place. So it works that Sandow is the stunt double, right? I'm the Miz's stunt double. I'm Damien Mizdow. That totally works. Makes complete sense. It almost seems like maybe not the character, but you're trivializing the device that you're using to get Damien Sandow over, which in this case is pretending to be Miz. That's the thing that's getting him over. And it's almost as if you're trying to they're trying to take away the thing that's making us really into this Damien Mizdow. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Damien versus Miz, that's a main event. Maybe not a main event on a pay-per-view, but it's definitely a main event on a Raw or a SmackDown. And yeah, that has just all sorts of fun and crazy implications and possibilities. I don't know. I just feel like when they did it with R-Truth, it didn't make any sense. It's like, oh hey, you people, you guys remember that R-Truth still works here, right? Yeah, here he is. And then I have nothing else more to say about that. You?
Not really. I mean, it was actually a pretty good match, wrestling-wise. I mean, we have who got accidentally punched? Miz punched Mizdow, and that got Dolph and R. Ziggler the win.
Yeah, they did the old, you hold him, and I'm going to do the big wind-up and punch, and then the babyface drops, and then, yeah, because Mizdow had him in the hold, Miz reared back, went to punch Ziggler, Ziggler drops, clocks Mizdow in the face, and I believe it's Mizdow that actually takes the fall in this match. And also, another thing, and maybe it's just me, but did you notice that how well Damien Mizdow and The Miz himself work as a tag team?
They worked excellent together. That's why I was actually liking this match and was very entertained. But thinking about what you said earlier about how you see The Miz and Mizdow feuding, this could be actually the start of it.
It could, but I hope it doesn't happen so soon. I think they could really wait on that, and then we can do. You could save Miz versus Mizdow for Mania. I'd buy it.
Wow.
I'd buy it. Not on the top of the card, but you could put it like in the middle part of the card. You know, who's the real Miz? Fuck it, why not? Right?
Hey, for $9.99.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to add to that before we keep this ball rolling?
Nothing at all. Let's keep this ball rolling, Ted.
Keeping it rolling. We had a Seth Rollins backstage interview. Not much. Not that it wasn't a good interview. There's just not really much for me to talk or expand upon. So moving on, we have Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. Now, I know my man Papo, you're a huge, huge Roman Reigns fan. And I'm a Roman Reigns fan too, but I think I like Seth Rollins a little bit more. So my expectations were high for this match. Well, actually, how excited were you for this match?
This match had me crazily excited. You know that I am a Roman Reigns fan, and then these two having a history of the Shield. So, I mean, during the interview with Rollins, he stated out what? Reigns versus Braun. And that came into a major factor into this match. But I did see where Rollins used out Braun before Reigns. I mean, these two had an awesome match. Awesome match. My number 2 of the night was this match. So, Ted, let me know what you thought of this match.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. This match, like I said, it wasn't the best Raw, but we had some damn good wrestling on this show. They knocked it out of the park, right? I actually thought the match started a little slow. For some reason, I had trouble getting into it. I was just kind of like, oh, okay, these guys are having a match. But for some odd reason, I don't know whether I just wasn't invested in this particular match, or I don't know. I was just kind of turned off at the beginning. I just wasn't into it. But then, how Reigns has that drop kick to the outside spot where the guy's laying on the bottom rope, and then he comes along and then like jumps and kicks and kind of lands on the apron. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So he's never missed anybody with that thing, right? As far as I can remember. And he's been doing it for at least a year now, right? So when he went for it and Rollins moved out of the way, I like instantly sat up and I was like, oh shit. And then I was super glued into the match. And then like seconds later after that match they just set it on fire and let it burn down. I mean, that shit was crazy. And then, yeah, man, it was just solid, hard-hitting, and really dramatic. And were you surprised that, maybe not surprised, but let me rephrase it. Were you surprised that Roman Reigns got a clean victory?
Oh, man, that was one of the major factors that this is my number 2 match of the night. Nobody interfered, and it was a clean win for Roman Reigns. Clean win, spear, pin, done. No Orton, no Corporate Kane, no Stephanie, no Triple H. This was actually refreshing for a clean win. With knowing that Rollins, Orton, or Kane would have called out for some sort of type of assistance.
Mm. So, that being said, and that you and I agree that was pretty much match of the night. I think you may have said that it was like second, or I think this was tied for another match I was talking about earlier. But yeah, no, really, really, really impressive. Although oddly enough, although that was our main event, that wasn't actually how the show went off the air. We actually launched into an in-ring segment with Michael Cole and Mark Henry. And, you know, good old Sex with Chocolate cuts a patriotic, heartfelt promo. Lana does the atypical, USA sucks, Russia's awesome. And then basically references something, and I didn't research this. I was having I was playing Destiny. I'm not going to lie, I didn't do too much research this week. That game is super fun. But basically she goes on to reference his appearance at the 1992 Olympics, which maybe I'm getting it wrong, but I thought that those would, because I think they were debuting him in '96. I think it was in Atlanta. Olympics, and I think that's where Kurt won the gold medal at that same Olympic year. So I'm not sure if they're. I forget where I was going with it. Anyway, I didn't know that he had a loss in the Olympics in '92. I was only aware of the one in '96, if that's the one that they've been talking about all these years. But she basically goes on to do that. Henry goes right into Pledge of Allegiance. Rusev waits for the perfect opportunity to strike. He attacks from behind. And he works quickly to try to dispose of Henry, only for Mark Henry to just hit him with the probably nastiest spine buster I've seen in weeks. And then, crowd pops, and we go off the air with Mark Henry waving the Old Glory. What do you think about that spine buster, man?
That was devastating. I mean, it's been a while since we actually seen that spine buster performed by him. But then he got it off, and he waved the Old Glory, and he had his moment, which has got me kind of on the backpedaling for him for the pay-per-view.
I think you're having the same thoughts I am. So, that being said, overall, maybe not the best story we had this week for Raw, but I'm sure you can agree with me, Papo. Probably some of the best matches we've had on Raw in maybe the past month or so. Or at least a couple of weeks.
Definitely.
Ladies and gentlemen, this Sunday is WWE Night of Champions 2014. What we're going to do is we're basically just going to take a few moments and we're just going to run through the scheduled matches on the card, basically give our expectations and our predictions. By the way, if you like anything you see here, like, comment, subscribe, share, post it, do all the things that you would do to let us know that you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, comment. If you don't enjoy it, comment what you think we should talk about, any suggestions. We'd really like to hear from you. And, of course, we want to spread the show. So anywhere you can post it or reference it, tell your friends, have them too tell two friends, and have them, I don't know, stick Cheerios up their butt or something. Anyway.
Yeah.
Night of Champions. And this is in no particular order, to a degree, because I always try to get these in the order that they're going to come out when we talk about them, but then they never go. So, based on how the WWE set this up on their website, I'm assuming that this is the order. We have the kickoff show, Christian hosting his peak show with Y2J. Nothing really to predict there. Gonna be fun though, right? I guess.
Yeah, they got good chemistry between each other. It should be entertaining.
It should be. And you know what? It's funny because I just watched back their match over Trish. Really, really good match. Still holds up. But the actual first match on the show is going to be Paige, WWE Divas Champion, versus Brie Bella, Nikki Bella, and AJ Lee for the Divas title in a Fatal 4-Way match. Fatal 4-Way match, rules are basically that the champion does not have to get pinned to lose. It's really the first person who gets the pinfall or submission. There's no elimination. Just first victory handed out, that person becomes the champion. Between Paige, Nikki, Brie, and AJ Lee, what are your thoughts leading into this match, and who do you think is going to come out with the win?
Well, looking at that match, I'm going to go with AJ. She always has a plan, and she's just out there. So I'm going to go with AJ for that Fatal 4-Way. Your predictions?
I'm going to say that Paige retains. I don't see Paige losing the title anytime soon, especially now that she's this just super entertaining heel that's it's just wonderful. I love it. Can't say enough about it, but I think she's going to retain. Next up, we have Sheamus, WWE United States Champion versus Cesaro. Doesn't mention if there's any stipulation other than it's a championship match, so we'll just assume a regular one-on-one. I'm actually very excited for this match. for two reasons. Number one, these guys are just going to beat the shit out of each other, and that's just going to be awesome. And they're, and by proxy, they're going to put on a really good match. Second, I'm excited because I think if you could have a series right now between two guys to validate a title, especially one like the United States title, which is doesn't have the shine that it used to. It really doesn't mean much. And I don't even think, honestly, it really means that much in the WWE, considering that was like an old NWA type deal. I think first champion was Magnum TA, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. Comment down below. But I do feel that their feud, or what they could do in the ring, could enhance the legitimacy of that title. So, curious, your thoughts and predictions and expectations.
Okay. I am a Sheamus fan, more than a Cesaro fan, but I'm gotta lean towards Cesaro for this one. I mean, Sheamus already had a run, but Cesaro would actually, I'd see him winning. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Cesaro in this one, just because I feel that if the title changes hands here, that could also serve to make the title more important, and they could trade the title back and forth over a series of best of 5 or best of 7. In fact, I think that would be something very interesting to kind of not legitimize the title, but make it relevant again. Have two guys that can just go out there and just tear the house down over that title to bring some prestige to it, if you will.
If you will.
Next up, we have Mark Henry versus Rusev. What do you think going into this match?
Wow. As I stated earlier, I mean, with Mark Henry getting the best of Rusev at Raw, there's something, because Rusev, we know he can go to Burger King and scarf down Whoppers. We know
they're delicious.
But, I mean, honestly, I see Mark Henry out-muscling Rusev, but I see Rusev winning. I don't see them hurting that streak yet.
Yeah, I'm pretty much exactly with you on that. I do think, much like you said, we're going to see a clear demonstration that Mark Henry is physically and, well, just physically capable of crushing Rusev with his overall strength and power. But I do believe that Rusev's going to win this match, only because I really feel like they're saving that Rusev Swagger feud to go back closer to a bigger pay-per-view. I don't know off the top of my head which one is after this, but I'm going to say Rusev retains, and we may even get to see World's Strongest Slam anyway after the match. Like maybe Rusev wins the match, but Mark Henry's still able to get him with the World's Strongest Slam, letting people know that, hey, you know what, maybe I didn't win the match, but I could totally squash this motherfucker.
Touché.
Speaking of touché, this is, again, a terrible, terrible segue. We got the Usos versus the Dust Brothers for the Tag Team Champions. Now, I'm going to take a second and go first here, because I'm of the mindset very much that we have just mentioned, right? Where we had literally just talked about Henry versus Rusev, and I don't know if you've noticed, I'm sure you've noticed, but some of our viewers may not notice that about 60% of the time, whoever comes into the pay-per-view looking the strongest is going to be the one who loses, right? At least in WWE. I'm going to say quite confidently, and if you will see Golden Stardust as the new tag team champions. Your thoughts?
Well, they've been building up Star and Gold for a hot minute, and at this point, I'm in agreement, and I see the Dust Brothers with Tag Team Gold at the pay-per-view. But you know I'm so crazy. Ain't gonna stop.
Hey, man.
So
It's all good. You can keep being so crazy. Just keep it to yourself. All right, I don't want it over here. I'm busy.
Ooh.
I'm busy believing over here. So just keep that Uso nonsense to yourself.
I can believe that.
Let's see. Where were we? We were talking about the tag team champions. Yeah, and it doesn't have to end their feud, right? They can have that match and lose, and you have the Usos lose the titles, but then it ends up having to light a fire under their ass, and they have to go back and fight even harder.
That'd be the start of a whole new feud.
Yeah, and it could just or maybe a little bit more dimension with the Usos. Maybe you get to the point where you do a double turn. Usos turn heel, Goldust and Stardust turn face. You never know, right? There's a lot of possibilities there. Plus, these guys put on good matches. Yeah, right? Yeah, it's still, in the end, no matter what, one of the Dust Brothers is turning on the other. In my mind, Goldust should turn on Cody. Eventually. That's my end game that I'm working towards in my fantasy booking league. But moving on, because we have bigger and better things to talk about, specifically A-list movie stars. I'm talking about The Miz, the most must-see sports entertainer, whatever the hell, I don't know. I give up. Too much words. He faces Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. Your expectations and predictions?
Well, we know that The Miz always has something up his sleeve. As of right now, I see Miz coming out with the Intercontinental Champion, which will actually can leave up Dolph Ziggler for a heavyweight run. But I mean, as of right now, I see Miz winning that match. Your thoughts?
I had a crazy idea just now. Follow me. Just humor me, right? Damien Mizdow is the stunt double for The Miz, right?
Okay.
We've talked about this before. You remember the Killer Bees?
I remember the Killer Bees.
Killer Bees. Excellent. This would be a wonderful point of reference. For those of you who don't know who the Killer Bees are, I think it was B. Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell. Check them out on the WWE Network for only
$9.99.
Basically, these guys had a gimmick where they would trade places. They would put on these terrible masks, and oh shit, which bee is it? Because they both had the same tights and gear and whatnot. Hear me out. Here's a way to get Ziggler off the title to put him into a world title contention, but still keep something of this feud relevant. Follow me here. Damien Sandow's in a bad way, right? At some point, the referee takes a ref bump. Ref's knocked out. Damien Mizdow interferes. The Miz comes back. Basically, Dolph Ziggler finds himself in a position where he's covered by Mizdow in order to get the win, right? So maybe Miz gets knocked out, and then Ziggler turns around, and Mizdow gets the drop on Ziggler, and then covers him from a position where the ref can't see, and the ref only sees shoulders down and counts 1, 2, 3. Damien Mizdow is the new Intercontinental Champion, and then you can have an inner infighting between Mizdow and Miz, and you can play off the idea that Mizdow is the Miz, and the Miz could be like, well, you won that championship for me, and he'd be like, no, I, the ultimate stunt double, Damien Mizdow, I won it for me, and then you could really get the title off Ziggler, but still keep the title relevant to the storyline, and give us what we want to see, which is the battle for who's the real Miz. What do you think about that?
That's heavy. That is an awesome twist. And he doesn't even have his fantasy booker hat on. He's a monster. Check him out. But that was an awesome. I mean, I would totally buy into that. That is total pay-per-view stuff right there.
Telling you, WWE, call me.
Call him.
So, did you give your predictions? Permissions. That's a long day. Did you give your prediction on the Ziggler versus Miz match?
Yeah.
Or did I completely forget? Okay.
I'm giving Miz the new Intercontinental Champion.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of on the fence about that. I'm going to say for now, Dolph Ziggler retains. Maybe we want to stretch that out before we start doing all that crazy stuff with the Miz Dow and the Miz himself. Y2J versus Randy Orton. I predict Y2J wins, so he actually gets a victory on the way out the door.
I want to say Y2J, especially after that big win over Kane. But I don't know. I see Randy coming out on top on that one, so I'm gonna have to go with Randy Orton.
Man, I thought we were friends. I thought we were in agreement here.
Yeah, I mean, I can see him having a grudge. I can see him having a grudge against Orton. But I don't know, there's something there that's telling me that Orton's going to win this.
All right, fair enough. Let's see, into our main event, Roman Reigns versus the Seth Rollins.
I see a repeat of Raw and Roman whipping his ass again.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, right? Because Rollins doesn't have a title, but he has a contract for a title, technically for any singles title, but realistically for the major title, 365 days a year, anytime, any place he can cash it in on a show. So Rollins can lose all day long, but he still has that bona fide title shot, so that doesn't hurt him if he takes a loss. Roman Reigns has to lose, I wouldn't say frequently, but I would say semi-often. Enough so we're not being shoved the idea that he's Superman, right? Just because that's why this happened to Cena, because he just went over everybody like a motherfucker. Roman Reigns could stand to lose this match, but I think he stands to gain. I think everybody wins if Reigns wins, because Reigns can get his victory over Rollins and then call it a day. He's done, and he can go into whatever feud after this in order to bring Ambrose back so Ambrose can pick up where he left off. So, yeah, I'm going to say Roman Reigns for the win. Then we have the main course. John Cena versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship title match. Your thoughts and predictions and greatest fears?
Oh, man. I'm going to go and say Brock Lesnar retains the title and makes a victim out of Cena again. Your thoughts?
Almost exactly what you said. I think we're going to see more of a showing out of Cena this time, but I don't think it's going to make a damn bit of difference. Not only that, it doesn't. Not to say that anything hurts Brock, but what's more important is he's the guy you basically gave the breaking of the streak to. So it ultimately is going to impact the streak. At this point, I don't think Brock Lesnar should be losing to anybody until WrestleMania. I don't think, and I don't even think he has to have a title match every pay-per-view, right? Let's say he gives the title match to some job Washington there. He's fulfilled his 30-day defense contract for the title, or title defense stipulation. But yeah, Lesnar losing this match, and if I would be very surprised and disappointed because I don't think it would help anybody. That being said, that's really it for us this week. We went over basically the NXT rundown of what happened on NXT Takedown 2, Fatal 4-Way. We've talked about this week's Raw. We've also talked about upcoming Night of Champions, which is this Sunday. Just a couple quick things we have to talk about. We have our YouTube shout-outs, and we got our Facebook shout-outs. Papo, we had 2 shout-outs for the YouTube page this week.
Cool.
The first one, and I am almost certainly going to butcher your name, so I'm very sorry, but that's just how it is. Brandon de Oliveira Bernadas. I don't know.
Yeah, you butchered it.
I did? Okay. Well, at least I saw that coming. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's like a definitive statement on his opinion of us, on his opinion of the show. But you know what? Okay, man. Thanks for the okay, and okay yourself. Next, we have JXRISTOP. He actually basically directed this directly to you, man. He says, Papo, I felt the love when he said Rambo.
That's my boy. That's my boy. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring out the Facebook question of last week. And the Facebook question of last week was, what would your wrestler character's name be? So, the first one we got here is from Ali, who has his wrestling gimmick as the Persian, a.k.a. the Iron Sheik's son, which sounds awesome. I can actually see that character, and I can see him playing that character also. Then we have Frankie Matei, whose wrestler's name would be Frank the Tank. I gave that to him a long time ago. Then we have Amy Nunez, whose wrestling name would be La Blue Eyes. Okay, and then we have John Rambo Ramlochin, whose name would be John Lee. Who, the people that know him, he's a big Bruce Lee fan. That's my boy. John Lee Joestar, or JoJo for short. That's what he stated. Next we have Jonathan Nunez, and his wrestling name will be King Ocean Blade. Yeah, that's awesome. And then we have Jersey Born, and his name would be Flying Brian. Now there may be some copyright infringement going on right there, but Flying Brian, run with that. That's my boy. So flipping the script, Ted, what would your wrestler's name be?
Oh, man, this was a good one. I put a lot of thought into this. It came down to the wire, down to the nitty-gritty, if you will. I basically came down to 2 names. One is going to be an honorable mention. I decided that in the end I couldn't use it because technically it's already being used by a wrestler. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest movies, probably maybe the beginning of Rocky III. This is the one where he faces Clubber Lang, a.k.a. Mr. T. In the beginning of the movie, he has a boxer versus wrestler match with the immortal Hulk Hogan. What's hilarious is the name that Hulk Hogan was using was Thunderlips, which I think is a great name. Call me crazy. There's if you just had a leather jacket that said Thunderlips on it, turn heads. It's a money idea. But since it's technically already been used, albeit it's about a fictional wrestler in a movie, I have decided that the name would be Major Beef. And it sounds like the worst name, and it probably is, but the idea is he's a dude that just, like, has beef with people. And he's not even a real major, but, like, fuck it, he wears camo pants anyway, because why not? And he's like, hey, I got beef with you, and then he fights. It's a very, very poorly thought out idea, but I thought the name was catchy. So I want to know what you spent your week figuring out.
Okay. I actually came up with three names. The first name that I got was first. I have to let you explain that during the Attitude Era, there was this whole vampire gimmicks going around. Gangrel, Edge, and Christian. And I was digging that whole gimmick. It really was attention, and I came up with the name Papo Cabra as opposed to Papo and the
Chupacabra, right? Nice.
Exactly. And for that whole vampire gimmick, and I actually I made the character on a video game. I think it was Raw versus SmackDown, one of the 2000 whatevers. So that was one of my characters right there. But then I saw a movie called Necessary Roughness. And there was a small guy on there who played football. And his name was Manu Manu.
Yeah, that's the one where Kathy Ireland, she's a soccer player. She ends up being the field goal kicker, right?
Right.
Ah, great movie, yeah.
And let me tell you, I got mad love for the Samoans and their line in wrestling. Jimmy Fly Snuka is my favorite wrestler of all time. So, I mean, I was coming up with a gimmick to fall into that line. Manu Manu, nephew of The Rock, the runt of the litter. That's what it means.
Oh,
I could totally pass for him. Hey
man, if we've had Haku's son, who's from Tonga, play a Mexican on television, I think we could work it out. I mean, shit, wasn't Yokozuna Samoan and he was supposed to be from Japan when he was clearly not?
For real. Okay. So my wrestler name, I'm sticking with Papo, but I'm ending it with Suave. Smooth in Spanish. I mean, it fits me perfect. Papo Suave. And I can totally steal Rico Suave's theme music and change from Rico to Papo. So, those are the shout-outs that we got there for the Facebook page. Stay tuned. I'm going to throw another question up really soon. Please answer, comment, add whatever you like over to the Facebook page. We love your input. So, Ted, do you have anything else for our precious viewers?
No, man, I think that's it. And ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you very much for tuning with us on this fine evening. Again, we make these videos every week, Wednesdays. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Any suggestions, ideas, things you want to talk about, things you just, maybe want to pick our brain about. We'd love to hear about it. You can either contact us at the Facebook page, which will be in the description box below. And, yeah, comment, share, subscribe, all those fun things. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ted, and that is...
Papo.
And this was the Wrestling Exchange. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Do we have sound? I can't hear it. Yay, it's working. Good night, everybody.